Welcome everyone to the Realty Debate on e-commerce versus brick and mortar retail. We've all seen staggering valuations for e-commerce businesses like Flipkart and Snapdeal. There are several articles which talk about malls going under across the country as buyers latch on to buying online and bagging deeply discounted deals. So today on the show, we look at India's retail real estate market, also examine that landscape which is changing. Are malls becoming a very difficult business to sustain? In fact, I've been reading headlines which say or question, is mall a dying business in India? So that needs to be answered as well. How can malls adapt in the face of new competition from digital? So India's big city shopping malls, what lies ahead? With me today, Gulam Zia, Executive Director, Knight Frank India. Also with me, Rajneesh Mahajan, CEO, Inorbit Malls India. I have with me Anand Sundaram, Chief Executive Officer, Pioneer Properties Zone. Harminder Sani in the Delhi studio, Founder and Managing Director, Wazir Advisors. Also Pushpa Bector, Senior VP, Mall Head, Mall of India, Noida DLF. And Sameer Jasuja, CEO and Founder of Prop Equity. All right, so before we start the discussion, interesting to look at just what's happening within the retail space in India. This is a Knight Frank report recently released. It says total retail spending and penetration of modern retail in top 7 cities, and they've captured 2014 data. Total spending is about $60 billion. And of course, Mumbai spends the most, 29%, followed by NCR and Bengaluru at 25 and 15%. Now, this number is projected to double to about $127.5 billion by 2019. Total penetration, 19% was brick and mortar, modern retail was at 17%, and e-tail at 2%. So that's the estimate they've got. They've also got brick and mortar to increase by 24% and e-tail share to increase to 11% by 2019. Now, when it comes to brick and mortar malls, that's modern retail as we are classifying it today, NCR has the highest penetration, even though Mumbai spends the most. So that's a curious disconnect there at 23%, followed by Bengaluru at 21%. Mumbai has only 12% penetration of brick and mortar modern retail. So Gulam Zia, I'm going to come to you first. Data we'll keep showing on the screen. Your team also gave us some very interesting statistics saying that if you were to put total modern retail space, which is malls and shopping streets, together in 7 top cities, 70 million square feet is that space. Now, if you look at this has been created over 15 years, you take a certain percentage and you actually find that the valuation is equivalent to Flipkart today. Can you run us through those numbers? Because that's the interesting question to ask today.
Sure. This space that we're talking about, the modern retail as we call, has on one side the mall spaces, on the other side the high street, and all that space put together. We are looking at almost about 70 million square feet, here and there 70 point something, in the top 7 cities. And if I look at a quick valuation of this, well, on some side you will have, malls which are, 2,000, say 2.5, 3 lakh square foot of area in remote location, and may not get more than 6,000, 7,000 rupees a square foot kind of valuation. On the other side, you will have some properties which could actually go up to 20,000, 15,000. So on an average, when I look at about 10,000 rupees a square foot, just an assumption, kind of a number, if I stick to that 70 million, we're talking about 11 billion US dollar as the valuation of this entire space, brick and mortar space that we have created in the last 16 to 17 years. And that's the number we're talking about.
Mm-hmm. All right, so what is the interesting takeaway? Is the takeaway that, look, brick and mortar retail is under threat from online retail, and we need to be more careful about the kind of supply which comes into the market?
Well, that is one of the inferences that you can draw. But on the other side, there is also one more interesting finding that we have. If you look at one of those graphs that we have there, it's talking about in last 16 years, the share of organized retail in that what is the mall vis-a-vis the rest of the retail. If you look at that graph, say about 15, 16 years back when the malls, etc. were making an advent in the country, once again, that time also there was this talk that malls will perhaps take away the entire business and so on. But even today, mall vis-a-vis the high streets, we still have almost about 45 to 50% share. And when we are looking at projecting the numbers for e-commerce vis-a-vis the organized retail that we're talking about, going forward, we're talking about in the next 5 years, you will have 13% for the organized brick and mortar retail, vis-a-vis about 11 to 12% for e-commerce, so which is once again stabilizing. So my point is, I don't see much of a reason to worry. Obviously, these are all platforms for retail trading, and anything new that is coming up will kind of come in with a big bang, and that's what we can look at. Going forward, these things will be stabilizing in times to come.
All right, so Anand Sundaram, your viewpoint on what's going to happen with the mall business in India. You know, you keep reading reports that mall business is dying. You actually look at the numbers which are in front of you. Supply's gone down. So if you look at organized retail and give us your view, is this a business that developers need to be very careful of in entering?
I think they have to be very careful and pursue this business, yes. Because of late, we've been deluged with a lot of queries by, say, some of the sovereign funds and other funds who want to pick up ready and performing malls at a phenomenal rates and phenomenal valuations. What we find is there are very few malls in the country today which fit the portfolio and the need. For example, the kind of quality of the construction or the kind of performance levels that they have. I mean, there are very, very few. So if we are able to up the ante on the rest of the malls, I believe this industry looks very promising. Also, in the next coming few years, there are very few malls that are under construction. So there is going to be a gap in the demand and supply. If you look at the growth in retail formats, vis-a-vis the need for the formats, I guess we are in an industry which needs much more supply here.
Okay, so Cushman Wakefield data in front of me, supply 1.7 million square feet of fresh mall space against the estimated supply of 12 million square feet, less than 15% of the planned supply. So a lot of it has been deferred. Rajneesh Mahajan, you know, Mumbai itself, the spending power highest, but when it comes to mall space, below that of NCR and Bangalore. So why do you think that there is a inherent disadvantage of launching new malls in Mumbai, and you hear of the maximum numbers also shutting down in your city?
I think the Mumbai landscape itself has a limitation to which one can keep developing the malls. If you see geographical spread the way NCR went through or Bengaluru went through, they had a circular expansion, whereas Bombay doesn't have that advantage.
Okay, so is it just, Harminder, do you think Bombay just has that disadvantage of going linear and therefore not enough land, and that's the reason why you have less number of malls? But why are malls then dying down?
See, that reason very clearly is there. Otherwise, if you look at what is Bombay, what we call Bombay, is there any mall there other than Phoenix? That's also, if you ask the real Bombay people, they'll say it's not Bombay. It's beyond, clearly beyond Haji Ali, so it's not Bombay. It's Midtown we are talking. So there's no mall in Bombay. And mainly it's to do with the land issues. And I think, but leaving that aside, I think eventually it's the customer who needs to be serviced. And there are various formats which will service the customer, whether it is malls or whether it's online or whether it's the high streets. As long as customer is getting service, the brands are able to reach them. I think everything should work out. Now the real estate people, they have options, and I'm sure other people on the panel, they can talk about that in much more detail. That any real estate developer, he's got a piece of land. What is he going to do with it? So when Anand says that there are a lot of people who are wanting to invest big time into these malls, I think that's the message which need to reach out to the developers, because when we talk to the developers, most of the people, they are shying away from investing into retail malls. They are saying it's becoming a self-fulfilling prophecy. They read all these news about online taking over and retail is going to die, offline is going to disappear. So people are deferring. So the numbers which you mentioned about deferment of the malls, I think they are very clearly there because people do not want to look into future which is uncertain, which is inconsistent. They would like to put money onto something which they can clearly see. And putting money in a mall or any real estate is a very long-term investment. And I think that assurance which Anand gave, many more people from the industry should give it to developers, that there are investors, there are strategic buyers who are out there. But as of now, I don't think many people are aware of that.
Okay, Pushpa, I mean, you're ready to launch the biggest mall of India in Noida in May this year. The plans have been deferred, but that's not in terms of the launch itself. But are you worried? What's been the demand from stores? How confident are you that this huge, largest mall of India that you're going to launch will be successful?
When we launched Mall of India for leasing, we launched it in 2012. And on the contrary, we actually, when you look at zoning a mall and planning a mall, you plan it for 10 years ahead. And we did that through a very intense category analysis. And once we category analyzed the whole proposition of online versus brick and mortar, we realized that some categories we should really be giving less space to.
Okay.
So we gave less space to, say, electronics or books, which we realized was going to go into an online space more actively. And hence, what we have done is we've created a product which is more future ready. The other thing that we've done is that we've actually leased out the mall 90% today, and we've got very interesting international brands coming into the country. We've got a huge chunk of entertainment happening. So what will really happen with the whole online versus brick and mortar, in my view, is that the categories will get sorted. However, the experience of the consumers will get, people will pay more heed to it. When mall developers are developing and zoning the product, they'll pay more heed to the experience of the consumers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sameer, so is it pretty much that you have to get the product right to make it successful? So malls are becoming more an entertainment zone. Even today, when you see it's the sales are dipping, that's what we hear, but it's not that the footfalls are decreasing in malls.
I want to make an important point here of e-commerce versus brick and mortar. You see, at these times, as we speak, 2015, 2014, the e-commerce is basically right now a valuation game. And valuations are being driven purely because of customer acquisition and revenues. There is no talk of profitability whatsoever at this point in time. So what is really happening in the e-commerce industry is that everybody is offering products at a steep discount to what would be available at the retail mall. And they are funding that product literally because they are getting a lot of venture capital and private equity money to do so. This is a temporary phenomena. This is going to change in the next 3 to 4 years, where sales, again, in some respect, of course, e-commerce is going to go up, but at the same time, this mad rush that is happening because of discounts, and that's the only reason why the mad rush is happening, is going to taper down a lot more. Plus, there are enough and more brands who have to be out there showcasing their products even for e-commerce sales to happen, especially if you look at fashion. If you don't have those kind of stores showing their brands, creating the whole brand image of theirs, it just can't be created in the online space.
Okay, but there's a point, Harminder Sani, from what Sameer is saying, that there are, and Pushpa, that there are lots of categories which pretty much, whether you take away the discount or you keep it deeply discounted, like electronics and books, will continue to grow in the online space, and brick and mortar retail will struggle. Now, in this 4 years, when the rest of the business is also discounted, a lot of fashion brands are also moving online, and the stores are going empty. I know of people who actually go try out the size in a mall, but don't buy from that shop. They actually go online, find the same product, and buy it. So the transition 4 years, how painful is that going to be for brick and mortar? I get the point that online cannot sustain deeply discounted marketplaces for very long.
Slightly longer answer, if you allow me to say that. See, when the organized retail started, the modern retail started, the whole idea was that they are going to disintermediate the market because there are too many intermediaries and too much money goes to people who don't add any value. So now the organized retailer will come in, they'll make it whole very, very efficient and bring products to consumer, better service, better range at better prices. And now the online retailers are coming in and saying, you know what, these guys are even more inefficient. So we are going to make it more efficient, and we are going to bring this stuff to you far cheaper, far better, much wider range. How many shirts can a Shoppers Stop show in a store? Just look at Flipkart or a Myntra, they will show 20 times more products there. So now it's about disintermediation. So if this is how it's going to play out, eventually it's the same Arrow shirt which I used to buy in an Arrow store or in a multi-brand store which was mom and pop kind of store or Bindal's kind, or went to a Snowman, then I went to Shoppers Stop, and now I'm going to Mantra. But eventually it's the same Arrow shirt which I'm buying, right? And Arrow is going to control that the product should be available at the same price in all the channels. It cannot be that the shirt is available for 3,000 rupees at the store in a mall, and then I go online and find the same shirt for 2,000 rupees.
But it's happening today.
It has happened.
It is happening.
It has happened in the interim. It's not happening anymore. You cannot find the same product. I challenge you on that, because whether you look at Nike, you look at Adidas, look at Arrow, you look at any of the brands, you cannot find. You can find cheaper products, but you cannot find the same product from the same brand at a lower price. If you are finding it, you must check it whether it's a fake or it's a real one. You must check that, because there's fake stuff going out there. So that's what's going to happen eventually. Even the Flipkarts and Myntra, they are also intermediaries. Why they are sitting in between? I want to buy an Arrow shirt, let Arrow send that shirt to me, whether I look at it online or whether I try it in the store. So to Arrow, it will not matter, because they have the store where people like me go in and they check out the shirt, and eventually I don't feel like buying it there. I just go home and then buy it online. Eventually Arrow sells. So the brands will be all right. So when we talk about the brick and mortar, it's the retailer. So whether it's a Shoppers Stop or whether it's a Myntra, they both are under threat. That's very, very clear. Brands are not. Brands will continue to do well. So coming back to the malls will thrive because they will be places where malls will put their products. And all these things which we talk about, the productivity, about the rental and the margins you make at the store level, I think it all going to go out of equation, because brands never used to calculate their profitability on every point of sale. It only happened because everybody started talking retail. Otherwise, you go and ask a Dabur or a Unilever, they do not calculate the productivity or efficiency of every point of sale. They eventually look at the brand and they say that this brand sells $100 million worth, does it make money or not? And I think this is how all the brands will start looking at the business. And this is how it's going to pan out. So offline will definitely stay there. The malls, like I said, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's becoming to be, going to be that the people are not coming up with more malls. So the malls which are existing, even the malls which are today not doing so well, just because of demand supply, somewhere they will also start figuring it, they will start making money.
Okay.
There's not enough supply.
So we'll come back and discuss that. When is it that the mall business will start making money? And we have, of course, an expert panel here. Do they also need to change the way they look at business? We got some insights into what you do with the mall space today. With the competition from online staring at you or nipping at your heels, actually. We come back and take a look at that a little bit more. Also look at countries like US. You have much deeper online penetration there. How have they managed to place their mall business alongside of online business? Stay with us.